Hello and welcome to the Runna Podcast. Today we spoke to Ayesha McGowan, who is the first ever female African-American professional cyclist. She found her love for cycling commuting, but progressed to racing on the world stage. It's an amazing conversation about no matter the barriers in your way, if you love the sport and are really passionate about something, you can achieve the highest level. It's a great conversation about inclusion and representation in sport. Enjoy the episode. Hey Ayesha, how are you?
I'm all right.
Thank you for coming to London to chat to us.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
We'll get into your amazing story, but we'll start right at the beginning. What got you into sport on day one?
I guess if I had to decide what started sport in general, I got 2 bikes for Christmas when I was 5. I guess that's the first sport I did. Ironically, and I taught myself to ride a bike in my grandparents' garage. I don't know, I was always a really active kid. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia in the South, and my grandparents kind of live in the middle of nowhere, so it's just a lot of space to run around and get into whatever. And I was just always really active, so by the time I was old enough to do stuff, I was ready to go.
And so then was it cycling forever, or was there other sports in the childhood after those first 2 bikes?
I think I'm trying to I feel like I was really into basketball first.
Okay.
I think that was my first love. And I thought I was going to go to the NBA, and then the WNBA came out because I'm an old. And I thought I was going to go to the WNBA, but I was not that good, at all. And played a lot of sports in middle school and high school. I ran track. I really got into field hockey. And that was my main sport in high school. So cycling was just kind of like a thing I did with my friends. I went to my friend's house via bike, but I wasn't competitive in any way. I didn't know you could be, honestly. It was just everyone had a bike and you ride a bike with your friends, and that's kind of how that works. But I was always super into sports.
And so was there you said the dream of being in the NBA, and that wasn't the case with cycling, and that was because you didn't even have the awareness of cycle racing?
Yeah, no. Even when I started riding as an adult, I didn't know that was a thing that I could do. I feel like the only thing I had ever heard of was the Tour de France, but other than that, bike racing did not exist in my brain.
And was it always the case that you were competitive? Because I feel like a lot of young people would play sport and just think, I want to beat my friends at...
For sure.
But you wanted to be in the NBA.
Yeah, I was always very... I'm still pretty competitive, but always super competitive, for sure.
And what do you think makes you that way? Was it growing up with an older sister, or...?
I think I just really like stories about an underdog.
Okay.
And I those kinds of movies and books and stuff. I always get really teary-eyed when people overcome challenges and get the thing that they really worked hard for. And so I think I've always kind of had that running in my head from a very young age.
Did you see yourself as an underdog, even at that age?
I don't know if I saw myself as an underdog, but I definitely those stories always resonated with me. But I guess I am a bit of an underdog.
I guess when you must have moved into cycling,
for sure,
you must have felt a bit like that. When did that transition into cycling happen? When did you realize that you could race, that was even an option?
So I got into bikes as an adult, as a college student. I lived in Boston. I went to Berklee College of Music. And it's really cold there, and the train system is really stupid. And so my friend suggested that I get a bike because I just complained about it all the time. And I got a bike. I borrowed my mom's bike. And it just clearly changed my entire world. But it was another 7 years before I actually started competing. So I started as a commuter. I got really into bike advocacy. And safer streets and representation and working for more safe spaces for marginalized people to enjoy bikes. And I met a lot of really cool people doing a lot of really cool things. So I think my first introduction to competitive cycling was cyclocross. I didn't do cyclocross, and I still don't do cyclocross, but I had a friend who was also a bike advocate who was doing cyclocross, and he's like, you should do it, you should come and race. And I'm like, no, that's okay, I'm good. And I don't know how much you know about cyclocross, but it's like a combination between road bike racing and like mountain bike racing, gravel race. It's like off-road but fast, like high pace, super high energy, like kind of like a sprint for 40 minutes to an hour. And you have to like jump over things, run upstairs, there's sand. It's like obstacle course on a bicycle. Not for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, did that excite you, or did the reason that you said no is that fear, or is that?
I think I was like super into just being, just riding a bike. I wasn't trying to compete. And it also still didn't seem accessible to me. Like it didn't sound like something that I could do. I don't know, it just didn't click for me then.
So what was then the first competitive cycling experience you had if it wasn't joining your friend doing their cyclocross?
So I got really into the fixed gear bike scene. And basically a fixed gear bike is a single speed. So you have one gear, and a lot of people don't have any brakes. And to stop your bike, you have to create resistance by trying to pedal backwards and skidding. It's really silly and super fun.
I think for anyone who hasn't done that, it's the same as what they do when they ride on the track. And
yes,
I went
it's a track bike.
I went for a velodrome experience, and it is the most surreal, but like frightening thing in the world, where if you for a moment wanted to rest your legs and stop pedaling, you'd fall off the bike.
Yeah, it'll buck you off.
And your legs are literally like just taken around for you. And yeah, I think like it's something.
But it's so much fun.
Yeah.
My knees are terrible now. Probably not the best longevity choice, but so much fun. And I was a messenger for a very short time, and there's a lot of competitiveness in that. But also there are these street races called alley cats, and basically it mimics a messenger's day. So they give you a manifest, which is like a list of locations, and you have to go to all of these checkpoints. And sometimes they'll have like fun things you have to do there, like a task. Like we did one in Alley Cat where like you had to shoot a basketball, which is hilarious because apparently I'm still not very good at that. But you go to all these checkpoints and you're trying to do that first before everybody else, and if you do that first you win. And I was just really good at it, and so that was my first real foray into like any kind of competitive cycling.
It just blows my mind that you were like just commuting on your bike as I do, and then somehow this transitioned to you being a professional cyclist.
Yeah, it wasn't a traditional path by any means.
And as an adult, isn't that another like almost barrier to entry, being like, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, like, oh, I haven't been doing this since I was a child? Like, did your parents think you were crazy?
I've always kind of just done whatever I wanted, so like my family wasn't super surprised.
Yeah.
It was more so like, please don't get hurt, which sometimes I did, but it's okay. We're still rolling.
So yeah, how did you become a professional cyclist?
So I got into road racing because there was a race that was really, really popular called the Red Hook Crit, and that was on fixed gears. So Criterium is like, I guess NASCAR is an American reference, but basically like race cars, closed track, city streets, lots of like turns and like really, really fast, but on this bike with no brakes and one gear. And it got really, really big, this race, but it had only had a men's field since its inception. But in 2014, so now I'm dating myself, when I started getting more into the competitive side of like organized racing, they decided they were going to have a women's field. And so I was like, I have to do it. And I signed up for it, and that was my very, very first race. And so while I was training for that, I got my first road bike, which was it was like an 80s Mexico edition Eddie Merckx with like old Campagnolo on it. It was beautiful, and I have since erected that bike, and I still blame my husband, but that's a different story. But it was so much fun because you had brakes and more than one gear, and you could go really, really fast. And so I started training for road racing at the same time.
So you were training. So
I thought
you
so.
did want to be good. Like you wanted to go, like you wanted to try hard. You wanted to perform. is that your competitive side? How would you even go about training if you don't have a history of cycling?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I think I was just riding a lot and trying to go really fast. It was like, now that I know how to actually train, in hindsight, I was not necessarily wasting my time, but not using it very well. But I was having a lot of fun, so I guess that counts for something. But I definitely I do a lot of like envisioning the future, like seeing myself in the races and like seeing myself crossing the finish line. And I think I was doing a lot of that, just like, okay, this is what it's going to be like. I was completely wrong, and the race went really terribly. But I really enjoyed the process. So even though the race didn't go very well, I wanted to continue.
And so that race was, I guess you said it was the first time they had a female field.
Yeah.
Was it the case that like you finished that, you've got the love of it, you want to go do some more? Were there other races to sign up for, or how did the journey go thereafter? Because presumably it wasn't a straightforward ride to.
So I lived in New York City at the time. I was living in Brooklyn, and there's a really nice racing scene there. And there's an organization called the CRCA, which is the Century Road Club Association, I think. And they have beginner clinics and kind of like a trajectory for people who want to get into racing. And so I signed up for the clinic, and I thought we were going to like ride around some cones and like they would talk to us and it would be really cute. And instead, it was me waking up at like 4 a.m. to ride to Central Park, and they were like yelling instructions at us, but I was standing underneath the tree and there was a woodpecker pecking at the tree, so I heard nothing. And then they ushered us toward a start line and we were in a race, and I was like, oh, okay. But there's a lot of structure, I think. There were a lot of opportunities. I just happened to live in an epicenter where there is a way to like figure out what to do, where I feel like there are, like, America's very, very large, and so there are a lot of communities where you don't have that.
Because I think in the UK at the moment they're like really struggling for females in races. Like they put on female only races and there's not enough to like field a proper race. There were other women that you could cycle with.
Yeah, I feel like the fields were still smaller than the men, but we still had a pretty good size women's field, even for the beginners, because there's categories, so it's not like every single woman. Sometimes we'd have an open field where it was like amateurs and more experienced riders at the same time, but there were still a lot of beginner races that had enough women to like gain experience.
Amazing.
And I guess it's like that's a big difference with running, which is that you can put all abilities on the same race because there's no element of danger where you're not going to knock each other over, whereas like with cycling we need to have the like different categories so that you don't have the amateurs who maybe aren't as comfortable cycling right next to each other and right behind one another as you climb up the fields. And so did you immediately start kind of climbing up the different categories after that first race?
Yeah, so I did that first race. I got 5th place because I misjudged the finish line. I thought it was sooner than it was. Didn't make that mistake again. But I actually didn't own like a proper race bike yet. So I had to get a proper race bike so I could keep racing. I did that race on a borrowed bike. But a few months later, I got a proper race bike and started signing up for other races. And the 3rd race I did, I won the state championship for New York City for like the category that I was in. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm pretty good at this. And also winning feels really nice. So I'm going to keep doing it. And by the end of the season, I had upgraded. And so I was kind of looking around and like trying to like find like inspiration in the sport. And I discovered that there'd never been an African-American woman to be a professional road cyclist, which I thought was wild because it was 2014. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll just go and try and do that.
And how hard was it to become a professional cyclist?
Very, very, very hard. There's not really a path for anyone, like men, women, anyone. But you kind of just have to keep at it to figure it out. I feel like cycling still has a long way to go, for sure.
Yeah, I guess you've kind of been in it from for like a lot longer than I have, especially. How is the world of cycling changing? I know you are doing a lot to advocate for women in colour, like having similar opportunities to get into the sport. Have you seen changes over time?
Yeah, there are a lot more opportunities, not necessarily enough, but things are progressing. And I think maybe a larger issue is that women's cycling also still has a really, really long way to go. The men had a huge head start as far as opportunities and just like experience in the field. But now that there's more coverage for women's racing, there's more interest in women's racing, there's more money in women's racing, and therefore there's more resources in women's racing. And so we're seeing a lot of growth, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And do you think it's that is it the more growth at the top leads to more people getting in right at the bottom, and then that then feeds the growth again? Because people maybe, or women maybe historically weren't getting into cycling in the same way other than a mode of transport because they didn't know it could be on a path to racing.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe people now growing up and seeing that things like the Tour de France Femmes exist is making more women will get into cycling with a path to racing, and it's a long tail.
I think that it needs to happen in both areas. Like, you have to keep creating development programs to give people pathways to get there, but also the women at the top need more opportunities, more coverage, more money, more everything, really. But the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift has really like busted the ceiling kind of wide open, which has been fantastic. Like, at the top levels, they just started having to pay women in like 2019, 2020. It wasn't required before, which is wild because it's top level sport. These women are racing in the World Tour, which is the top level of bike racing, and at the Olympics and all of these things, but they weren't required to be paid. And a lot of the women's peloton still isn't required to be paid, but they're still racing these big races and dedicating all this time to training and
traveling the world and not able to have a job because they've got to train that hard and they've got to be...
Some of them do have jobs, like other jobs, and the joke is that the women's peloton is one of the most educated spaces in the world. Like, a lot of them are doctors or like have advanced degrees, which you don't necessarily see on the men's side of things. So, yeah.
Means there'll be better tactics going on in a women's peloton.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, I wanted to like dive into that mindset a bit more because you've had so many barriers which so many people would just stop at, just like not doing it as a child, like not being one of the only women of colour like that you were racing against, not being paid. What do you think it is in your head that really believed it could get better and like it is possible and you could make a career out of this?
I think the number one thing is that I was never in it for the money because there wasn't any. I just had a lot of passion and still do. I really love cycling. I really love the sport so much, and like really love women's cycling. Like, even just being at the Tour de France last week was so much fun, and just love rooting for them and just seeing the growth and seeing how many fans were there as opposed to 4 years ago when it started is just amazing. Like, it's so incredible, and I have so much passion for the sport. And I think at the core of it all, I did it because I wanted to, and I was enjoying what I was doing, and I just really wanted to. I really wanted it. And also, I really believe in representation for Black women and women of color in sport and in cycling, and cycling is a particularly homogenous sport. There were no Black women in the Tour de France this year. There's maybe been one in the past, in the 4 years that they've run it. And that's not cool with me. Like, I really, really want that to change. And so I think, to actually answer your question, for me it was a matter of passion and purpose, as opposed to anything else that kept me going.
Have you always loved it? Have there been times when you'd wanted to throw the towel in?
I never wanted to quit, but there were times where it wasn't fun. Like, I think being a professional cyclist is glamorized a lot, but it's really hard and it's really demanding and it requires a lot of sacrifice. Basically, the only thing you can do is train, eat, race, rest, and not much more. You have to say no to a lot of fun things with friends and family, even important ones that mean a lot to you. You can't just eat everything you want. like we bike to eat, but sometimes you got to make choices, and that's not always the most fun thing. Just trying to figure out how to rest properly is really challenging. I was just exhausted most of the time because you're training and traveling and racing and rinse and repeat. And
I guess like one of the biggest fundamental differences between cycling and running is the fact that there's no impact, which is what allows for people to be able to spend a lot more time cycling and more time on the bike, and ultimately do a lot more of that training, which leads to needing a lot more fuel, as you're kind of talking about.
Yeah.
Because if a runner ran for 20-30 hours a week, it's much more likely that they would get injured and it would be unproductive. Right. What would like your peak of training look like when you're doing it, maybe the peak of your performance?
Ideally, you're doing quite a few hours on the bike. You do a combination of like longer rides and recovery rides, and then like interval sessions with efforts. But then also some strength training, which I absolutely hate. I really love riding a bike. I do not like going to a gym. But it helps a lot, like really building up those muscles to support not only like, you know, speed and endurance, but also just like injury prevention, which is super important, because in bike racing, you're inevitably going to hit the ground. And so it's good to just have that base to help minimize the damage. Yeah. And there's also like, you have to go to physio, you need massage, you got to do it's a lot. Like.
And what would like a typical week of training look like in terms of mileage or hours on the bike?
It could be around 20 plus hours a week. 30 is stretching it. I don't know that I've ever had a 30-hour training week. I feel like the only times I've gone above 30 hours is if I was doing a long race or like some kind of adventure ride. And then however many hours of strength training. I usually try to keep those sessions pretty short, like 40 minutes. And then like going to the physio.
Well, I think that just speaks for like one of the biggest differences is that doing 20 hours a week of like cardiovascular based exercise. No wonder like one of the biggest challenges, as you said, is like eating enough to fuel for that training and fuel for that recovery.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever successful at that. Like I have always eaten kind of like a bird. I don't have the largest of appetites, and like my teammates could just like shove it down. It was just like insane to watch. They could eat anything, and I was so jealous. But I've always kind of struggled with that, and then I also had a lot of health issues that was preventing me from being able to eat, which is a part of why I stopped racing. But fueling is so hard, and there have been studies recently coming out about women cyclists where they're burning way more fuel than everyone thought. So pretty much everyone is underfueled. Even though they're eating so much already, they're still not eating enough because they're doing more.
I feel like cycling is actually like ahead of the game with fueling compared to running. In running, everyone says you hit the wall at a certain point in the marathon. Everyone hits the wall at like 30k. Whereas cycling, there's not one point where everyone hits the wall because they fuel so much. They take on like double the amount of runners. Like it's just a carb game, and hopefully we'll all catch up. But
yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I guess I've never done anything longer than a half marathon in running. But I felt like when I was doing it, having that cycling background was super helpful for fueling for that event. Like I never bonked. I never like crashed.
Well, I think also great. It's the endurance, because like a half marathon might take an hour and a half, might take 2 hours, might take 2.5. But when you cycle, often you might do a 2, 3, 4 hour ride. But then the endurance also that you have from cycling, bringing that to running can be so productive. So was running something that you've picked up since retiring from pro racing, or is it something that was always part of your cross training?
So I was running when I lived in Boston in college because everyone else was running. I remember always laughing because it'd be like the dead of winter and you'd see people like running through the park in shorts, and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that. But I got really into it then, but I overdid it and gave myself a nice little knee injury. And so I didn't really run again until a few years ago, as just like something else to do while I was kind of struggling with health issues while cycling. And it was just a nice outlet, like to do anything else. And yeah.
But you did do a trail half marathon. How was that?
It was kind of bonkers because like I live in Girona, or just outside of Girona, and kind of everything around there when it comes to sport feels so extreme.
Yeah.
Like even the cycling feels extreme. So I guess I had been training there, but not on the same exact roads. And so there was a point, like I still have the knee injury, and there was a point where my knee kind of shut down, and that wasn't fun. But then we got toward the end of the race, and there was like mud, and then we approached these it was like cliffs with ropes, and so we're scaling this wall, and I'm like, what is going on? Like I signed up for what I thought was just gonna be a nice little run, and now I'm doing like a Tough Mudder, and I don't know what's happening. And so I don't know. It was a lot of fun. I don't know that I would do a trail half again. I think the most I would do on the trail is maybe like a 10K, just because my knee did not like all the really steep downhills and unevenness of everything. But it was super fun. It was a really good atmosphere. Yeah.
Did you, it being a whole new stimulus, did you find that like exciting? Because when I get on a bike, I'm like, this is the best thing ever, because it's so new to me because I'm so used to running. Or did you wish you were on a bike?
I did not wish I was on a bike. I really did have fun. It was nice meeting new people and doing a new thing. And I actually trained pretty hard for that. And so I felt really prepared. And it was just really nice. I think I just had a really nice time.
And has like leaving the pro side of cycling, and obviously you're still massively involved in cycling as a sport, has that been something that's been like hard to wrap your head around, and having running as something to do alongside it's helped there? Or have you found that like adjustment of putting the pro racing behind?
I feel like I'm still a little lost. I think when you are like single track doing this one thing at a very high level for a really long time, you kind of forget how to do anything else. And so I don't really know what to do with myself these days. Figuring it out. But it is a bit of a difficult transition. And I think maybe I have an advantage because I feel like I've led many lives. Like I was a preschool music teacher before I was a professional cyclist. But I don't know. I don't know when it happened, when it was like, this is all I am now. But I'm having a bit of a hard time like transitioning out of that. And so now I'm just like doing long adventure, ultra endurance type road riding to kind of fill the void in my spirit.
And is that filling the void in time, or is that filling the void in like doing something really hard? Because like rather than having the hardness of like the speed and keeping up with the peloton, now it's like going further on distance. Or
I think it's doing something really hard. Like I need to challenge myself in some way, but I don't want to go back to racing. Like I'm happy with my decision. I'm really confident in it. I don't like even being there. It's like I'm not sad to not be doing that. It's actually really, really challenging. And I did ride all the courses for the Tour de France 4 days ahead of them, and they were really tough courses. And so like doing that at race pace with the level that women's cycling is now does not sound like a good time to me anymore. With the level that I'm at now. But yeah, I think I just need a challenge. Also, like I'm super ADHD, so I just need to do something to like steady myself.
I think it's also like such a similar path that so many people do, whereby people often start with the shorter stuff, and in a way it's like your journey as well, starting with the fixed gear crit racing and then progressing to road racing, and then now it's like doing ultra endurance, like, which is often the way that people kind of transition in the running side of things, that they get into like ultra marathon running,
right,
almost like later in life when they want to slow down but like want that challenge as well. It's such an interesting like parallel.
Yeah, I think a lot of pro cyclists, they'll like quote unquote retire, but then they'll get into gravel racing, which is still really hard and like super long distances. It'll be like 200-mile days. I don't want to do gravel racing, but I am finding joy in doing like non-competitive, challenging road things.
You also say you don't know what you're doing, but you've built like communities, the Black Foxes. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the Black Foxes was a collective. It still is, but we're kind of like doing our own things now. But it's a collective of 8 Black people in America who were into bikes and other like outdoor things. And it was just like a really fun project where we would get together once a year and do this big adventure. I think we did a bike packing adventure in Tennessee, and then we went to Jamaica once and Colorado and like in California, like just doing these big grand adventures and just having a really good time in a space that was created for us, and that was really, really fun. And then A Quick Brown Fox is the name of the blog that I started when I decided I wanted to go pro, and I've turned it kind of into this platform that creates opportunities for other women of color who want to ride bikes and do road racing. And so I have the Abundance Project, which offers grants and support and resources for women of color who want to get into road racing. And it's been super productive. I've really seen a huge change in the American racing scene, the road racing scene. So I'm hoping to get them to Europe sometime soon.
Let's segue over into Steph's coaching tip of the week.
Today is a reminder to listen to your body and don't be afraid to adapt your training. Life is busy, and when you're also balancing training, it's really important to monitor how you're feeling. Be prepared to adapt your training if you're feeling run down, a little bit tired, or work's got in the way. Being flexible and listening to your body will help you get to that start line in one piece.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by the Runna app, the #1 rated running coaching service worldwide. If you want to try the app today, use code podcast25 for 2 weeks totally for free. And please do remember to rate, follow and subscribe to us on your listening platform to help us climb the rankings and so that we can keep bringing you the most interesting and amazing guests.
Thanks for that, Steph. I'm going to bring us back with our discussion for this week. So, Ayesha, do you think social media is helping sports become more diverse?
Yes, I do. I think so, for sure.
Is it always a good thing?
I think it can be a very good thing and sometimes can be a bad thing. But as far as a tool for increasing diversity, I think it's one of the easier ways to get messages out and give people access to stories that are not being told by the majority of the industry, or whatever industry. And for as much flack as a lot of influencers do get, it does make an impact. And I think a lot of people find inspiration in seeing and finding someone like them doing a thing. So I think, yeah.
Well, I guess so much of kind of like helping bridge that gap of getting people into doing something is being able to see themselves in it.
Yeah.
And if all we can see is the people in our village around us who go cycling, if there's no one in your village that inspires you, that you feel like, you might then feel like it's not for you.
I think there's also a power in like having access to like multiple kinds of people that you can resonate with. I think a thing that most industries are lacking is diversity within diversity, where you'll have like a token person that's supposed to be the representative for everybody and everything within a certain subgroup. But there are so many ways that people can enjoy sport, enjoy cycling, enjoy running. And like, yeah, I'm a Black woman, but there are other Black women who will enjoy it differently than I do, or approach it differently than I do, or like... Yeah. It's nice to have access to different kinds of people doing similar things, but having...
That's true. Yeah, I guess on like TV and mainstream media, you only see the professionals, whereas so many people are in so many sports for enjoyment, or like it's probably nice to see you don't have to be the best at something to like find joy and a purpose within it.
Yeah.
Let's do the this or that's. So we've got a few funny questions for you. Would you rather hit the wall halfway through a race with no food, completely bonk, or race with a bike 2 sizes too small for you?
Oof. 2 sizes too small? Okay, I think I'd rather hit the wall, because that only sucks for the moment. But riding a bike 2 sizes too small is probably going to lead to like back pain, and I don't like that.
Yeah, it's true. I always think like, well, my bike, probably your bike, It's so tiny. Like, it's probably not allowed to. My handlebars are too small now for the new cycling rules.
Yeah, same.
There probably also wouldn't be 2 sizes smaller.
Yeah.
You'd have to be on a kid's bike, hadn't you?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, another one. Would you rather do all of your training and racing in the Sahara Desert or all of your training and racing in the Arctic?
Sahara, hands down. Hate cold. Won't do it.
Is there an added point that cycling is more dangerous on icy roads versus the heat's probably
It doesn't help.
more grippy?
I mean, sand's not great either.
No.
I hate being cold. I'd rather be incredibly uncomfortably hot than cold any day.
Wow. And did you ever do any kind of like heat adaptive training when you were like optimizing performance, or always just training outside in the middle of the day led to that anyway?
Sometimes summer in Girona feels like heat adaptive training. It'll be above, what do you guys do, Celsius, above 40 degrees, and you're
Wow.
just like, I can't think straight. But I've never done like the heat suit or the sauna training, like none of that, no.
I think it's interesting. There's a lot of people. I've seen people running around Battersea Park in a heat suit.
Are you hot or cold?
Cold. Well, for running, I run well in the cold. What are you?
I lived in Greece for 2 years and got used to running in the heat, so I think I'm leaning with you and picking the Sahara.
Mm-hmm. Okay, last one. Would you rather only ever train listening to the same song on repeat, or never listen to music again?
Same song.
Do you know what the song would be?
I listened to, I think the summer of 2022 or 2023, whenever it came out, I listened to the Renaissance album over and over again every single day for a few months. So something from there.
Did anyway. Do you listen to music when you train?
Yeah.
When you train indoors? When you train outdoors? Both?
Both. Yeah.
I find if I'm on a long ride, if I'm on my own, I need music or I need a podcast.
Yeah, music or a podcast.
It's
Sometimes an
yeah.
audiobook, but
Yeah.
I feel like audiobooks, they talk too soft and I can't hear it.
Yeah, I feel also with an audiobook, as soon as you like lean out of the conversation and then you like
Yeah, you're like,
remember
wait,
that
what
you're
happened?
listening and you're like, oh my god, I need to go and rewind it, which is
Yeah.
a nightmare.
It's so true. I was listening to Taylor Swift, like, riding through the Alps the other week, and I was like, this is magical. Okay, our final question that we like to ask all of our guests is to design your dream race. So where is it? What is it? Like, what distance is it? What food and drink is at the finish line? And who would present you with your award?
And I feel like unlike everyone else, we need you to clarify the type of bike. Are you taking fixed gear?
Oh, it's a bike race.
Well, you could
You could do a run
your
race.
dream race. I assumed it was going to be cycling, but it could be anything.
Oh, I was thinking that you wanted me to think of a running race, a bike race.
Well, your dream race. What sport is it? Could be a ice skating race for all we know.
No. Cold. Okay, if it's a bike race, I think it would be 100 kilometers tops. Longer is still fun, but that's the perfect distance in my opinion. And it would be in Spain. What foods at the
Are
finish?
you picking a hilly or a flat stage?
I think I like a rolling terrain.
Okay.
Nothing too steep.
And it's on tarmac?
For sure. 1,000%.
Mass participation or like a pro peloton kind of race?
Ooh. I mean, are those races? I guess like fondos. I don't know. I really like going fast. I think I want a pro race. And it would be, there'd be spaghetti at the finish with meat sauce. And my dad would give me the award.
Oh.
He died when I was 17, and I always wonder what it would be like to like experience him as an adult.
Yeah, well, I think you'd be very proud of everything you've achieved.
Yeah, me too.
That would also be a very fun race.
Yeah.
That would definitely build up your appetite for the spaghetti at the finish as well.
Oh yeah. It'd be great spaghetti.
Wow, well, thank you so much for sharing so much of your journey and sharing the dream race as well. And thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.